Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Informal back with a new Mr. Informal podcast. I hope you are doing well today. Again, this is Mr. Informal giving you Mr. Informal podcast number 230. 230. Could you believe that? I do. So, I hope you are doing well today, wherever you are in the world. You are healthy, staying healthy, and also enjoying life. And please do not forget to add me on Instagram, MisterInformal, and then check out my website, mrinformal.com, mrinformal.com. So, in this podcast 230, we have 4 topics. Number 1, Generation Z prefer going to the mall. Number 2, Formula 1 fashion. Yes, apparently everybody is going to Formula 1 to show off their outfits. Number 3, fashion diversity. Is there such a thing? I mean, fashion is all over the place. Last but not least, the vintage market. Yes, I do think this whole vintage fashion, all vintage fashion is gonna be the hottest trend, because apparently in Japan that's all the rage. Vintage store, vintage clothing, vintage collection. And so those are the 4 topics for this Mr. Informal podcast 230. And so let's go ahead and start the podcast. And so for the first topic, from retaildive.com, titled Gen Z headed to malls this holiday per report. Nearly half of young shoppers said they'll do their holiday shopping at the mall, as consumers plan to spend $530 on gifts, down from $612 from last year. It doesn't matter. They're going to the mall, which is good. They're actually getting up, walking around, get some exercise, shopping exercise to be specific. But I never really understand this whole Generation Z thing, but I'm just going by the title. And so nearly half of Generation Z consumers, 49.6%, plan to do their holiday shopping at the mall, a higher proportion than the 40.8% on average. Consumer plan to spend $530 on gifts alone this year, down from $612. Among top social media platforms for gifts inspirations are Facebook at 36%, Instagram at 33%, and YouTube at 25%. That is interesting. So, as Amazon dominates as the top holiday retail choice, other major retailers are trying to entice shoppers with deals, while Amazon will host its fall Prime member sale between October 10 and October 12. Walmart, Target, and Best Buy also unveiled their holiday season sales this season. But let's not forget, there is also Black Friday and also Christmas sales. So, like I said in the beginning, this is good. Generation Z is actually going out there, walking, doing some exercise, shopping exercise, and this is good for foot traffic. This is also good for the local businesses out there. I'm pretty sure that your local mall also have their own local businesses out there, and so that could help out. In general, the whole mall actually succeeds. This actually also makes the mall better place. I do know that there's going to be a lot of less parking, a lot of more people in the mall, but let's be honest here. It is what it is. If people decide to go to the mall, and try on clothes, and it's just better overall for the economy, because you never know when people see something that fits or that they love, out of the blue, they'll buy it, or most likely they will buy it. It just depends on how they feel at the time. This is also good for the food court, the food area in your local mall. Again, more foot traffic, people are hungry, from shopping, from looking at things, from window shopping, and so on. And so, as much as people don't like having too many people at the mall, but the fact is that sometimes being with family, even though it's at the mall, is just better than staying home. On to the second topic, F1 fashion or Formula One fashion. This has no article, but if you are looking to the social media and also blogs, I'm pretty sure you are seeing Lewis Hamilton. Apparently, he's the top fashionista in Formula One out of all the drivers. But nonetheless, F1 is also in Las Vegas, happening right now, or I think it should be happening soon. And so this is where the second topic comes in. A lot of celebrities, influencers, people are going to be in Las Vegas for Formula One. And you know what? The drivers are also, especially Lewis Hamilton, are going to be wearing things out of the ordinary. They could be a walking billboard. They could have their own outfits from their own personal stylist. I mean, this reminds you of the Kentucky Derby when everybody is basically looking like an aristocrat. But at the same time, Formula One is becoming more popular in the U.S. now, in the great U.S. of A. And so people are going to take notice. You're going to see players, basketball players, maybe football players, Olympic athletes coming out there and watching Formula One with their own fashion. And so it's going to be interesting as to what people will bring. Not only that, you're also going to have racing jackets. I'm pretty sure, look, don't get me wrong, I do like racing jackets, and you get to see a lot of it in the winter and fall and even spring. But as you know, that a lot of these people don't even wear them. Or I mean, they don't even know the brand. But here's the thing. I do know that there is a particular brand that people do know. But yeah, if you smoke cigarettes, Marlboro is definitely on top of in terms of recognition. I've seen Marlboro racing jackets all over the place, even vintage. Shell is a good one. The petroleum company, and I mean Honda, Ferrari, McLaren, F1. Come on, I mean the list goes on and on. And so, it's not just clothing. It's gonna be basically everything from shoes to the watch, Rolex, Patek Philippe. I mean, Audemars Piguet. I mean, it's basically the whole ensemble, especially the sunglasses, since it is hot in Las Vegas. But it's gonna be an extravagant event, and this is what I mean by Formula F1 fashion. There's also going to be a trickle effect to the different sectors out there, because when influencer sees this kind of thing, people are gonna generate racing jackets or anything that is for F1, or maybe inspired by the suit that F1 drivers wear when they are driving. I mean, it can get hot in that suit, but basically that suit is to protect the drivers from basically fire and any scratches, or hopefully from the crash. And then finally, it's also the helmet too. I'm pretty sure that people love the helmet. People want to wear the helmet. And so it's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting what will happen when Formula racing in Las Vegas starts. On to the third topic from hypebeast.com, titled, "Has Fashion Taken a Step Back on the Quest for Diversity?" Sean McGeer appointed at Alexander McQueen sparked a bigger conversation about diversity at Kering and by extension the rest of the industry. So apparently he made a statement. Basically, Alexander McQueen and Kering announced Sarah Burton's successor following her departure from the label after 13 years. Former J.W. Anderson, head of men's Sean McGear. The appointment of McGear almost instantly sparked appointment. You mean appointed? Appointed of McGear's almost instantly sparked criticism from industry insider, but not because of his design chops. Rather, the outrage stemmed from the French fashion conglomerate roster of creative directors now being composed of entirely Caucasian men. I mean, for me, I'm not really mad at that. I mean, what's going on here? So apparently Kering made a statement saying, let me read the paragraph here. One Granary, a social media account founded by Central Saint Martin's graduate Olya K, can't pronounce her last name, gathered quotes from the industry on the topic. A senior designer who shared their thoughts after hearing the news that McGear would be succeeding Burton's amongst the first post one Granary's observation, which later was picked up by Diet Prada, igniting a slew of conversation among peers and fans within and out of the industry, all calling for conglomerates like Kering to do better. Do what better? So apparently there's a statement. I literally don't know a single woman of my generation even approached for a job like this. All these women have given up everything to service men paid 10 times their salary. It is insulting to every woman working in the industry, not him being appointed, but having a full portfolio headed by men. I think so many women give up because the route is so impossible. Disappointment proved it. Okay, what about Virgil Abloh being appointed as men's creative director in Louis Vuitton? I mean, what about Pharrell Williams being, in Chanel? And same with Louis Vuitton. I mean, where was the outrage over that? So, honestly, I don't even know what's going on here. So, for me, I'm not even mad at this. If they want to appoint someone who has the creative chops, sure. I don't really care. If they want to appoint someone because of that, sure. But why does it have to be haute couture that this sparks an outrage? What about normal creative directors out there, like in Zara or maybe H&M? You know, maybe the kind of brand that people can wear or can afford. I'm just trying to understand this hypocrisy that is going on in the fashion industry. The fashion industry has always been hypocrites, from the creative directors, from the bosses, from the people who are there. All these sustainability fashion, these ethical fashion. This is why in the end, I don't really care for much in terms of who's being hired, who's being appointed to me. If you had the creativity or the established name with the creativity, sure, why not? But to say that we don't have enough women in the top position, well, maybe women should have their own company. Isn't that where Coco Chanel? Isn't that where Carolina Herrera? I'm confused here. I just don't understand why women don't want to support other women out there. If you really care about having top position in women, Why not just make your own company and build it, and also support that company for being a women build? But I'm pretty sure that's a whole different industry. But all of these people are just outraged for nothing. They just have nothing to do. That's all it comes down to. On to the last topic, vintage. Now, I've been watching a lot of videos in the internet on Japanese fashion. So, vintage has taken over Japan. And as usual, when something takes over in Japan, it also trickles in Europe, and it comes here in the US of A. Now, it's not new. I'm sure you can trip vintage here, vintage there, but in Japan, it is a full force vintage style, especially vintage t-shirts and vintage Levi's. I mean, I know here we also have vintage t-shirts and vintage Levi's, but it's a small market right now. It's not yet full force. The masses has not taken notice of it, but it looks like it will. If this keeps going, people are shopping more into their local thrift shops. Maybe going to Goodwill. Maybe their secondhand shop, resellers, the Real. I mean, so many different kinds of vintage shops out there. And again, it's still a smaller market. But I'm going to say it again, in Japan, it's a huge market. They especially love made in USA clothing. Unbelievable, right? And this is what I mean by vintage t-shirts and vintage Levi's. I'm pretty sure that there's also a market here for vintage Levi's, and people don't know it's actually a multi-million-dollar business in terms of vintage Levi's. And now you got these vintage t-shirts that will become, well, maybe a billion-dollar industry. And there are t-shirts out there, for some reason, vintage t-shirt that is costing over $1,000 or even more, because it was limited, or maybe it's the hottest thing for some reason. But I mean, it's coming. And don't be surprised if you're starting to see more people wear all vintage clothing. I'm talking about from the bottom to the top. That includes shoes, vintage shoes. I mean, that could be a Red Wing. That could be Salvatore Ferragamo made in Italy loafers. Heck, as you know, vintage watches right now are hot. And so people are wearing vintage mechanical watches. That's such as vintage Rolex, vintage Cartier, maybe a vintage Seiko chronograph. I mean, the list goes on and on. And let's not forget that old trusty vintage denim jacket. I mean, what can I say? It's coming. You're gonna see people wearing all vintage stuff in the public, meaning the masses, not just a smaller group of people. I'm talking about a full-on. It's gonna be the hottest trend. Like I said, maybe it's not too far, but it certainly is coming. And so that basically concludes this Mr. Informal Podcast 230. I hope you listened to me from beginning to end, and if you did, I do appreciate it. Hopefully I gave you some new news that you have never heard before, or gave you an opinion that is different from others out there. And so hopefully wherever you are in the world, you are staying healthy and you are being safe. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And so this is Mr. Informal Podcast in 230. I will see you in the next podcast. Oh, and don't forget to add me on Instagram and check out my website. Bye bye.